What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16-18 years old, 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4-5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. All these pedophile teacher stories, and all my high school did was start a rumor a girl named Janie didn't have a butthole. Someone put gear oil in the machine shop teacher's coffee. Damn near killed him. This was a year or 2 after I graduated. But there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want to with you," offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school, explaining it thus, "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it. Kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position, at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. A few years ago I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going. Wasn't paying much attention to it until I heard the line, "There wasn't much else for high school kids to do in less than wife's hometown more than during less than year wife would have been in high school more than." Started paying attention, and it's covering some kind of 6 ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife and she was like, "What? I don't remember that." Oh, right, that incident. My statistics teacher got fired when he accidentally turned on the projector to show his Mac screen to the whole class and a porn site was opened. I went to a charter school in PA. The founder stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the school district and used it for himself. In the back of the school, he built an apartment with a stripper pole, but it was hidden in the school. You could only get to it through one door hidden in a closet. He was eventually caught stealing money and he committed suicide. 2 students coordinated jerking off in English class. There was this younger, smockin' hot female teacher at my high school. Her BF was on The Real World, and she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BFSD. Everyone had already had a crush on her, but this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she quit teaching, but I don't remember seeing her around school after that year. Our history teacher made multiple sexual remarks to a female classmate. One time he pulled her shirt up because her cleavage was distracting. He retired not long after that. One of the girls were ducking the IT admin. She was 16-17 when that started. Heard an update from an old classmate nearly 20 years later, and not only have they stayed together, they're married, got 3 kids and live the upper middle class suburban dream life. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. A student was having sex with many girls in the gym locker room or music practice rooms. This was discovered due to an explosion in STD rates. I don't recall if it was chlamydia or gonorrhea. Yuck. Principal sexually harassed a teacher. Gym teacher was fired for being too close to female students. I couldn't get any more details, but I did witness his strange behavior towards females in the class many times. One girl had a key to his office. Students having sex in bathroom second theater. Nobody ever got caught in the theater as far as I know. There was also a stabbing my freshman year. I didn't witness that itself, but I was in the hallway that it happened on and witnessed the loud and panicked crowd. Edit. For any more people wondering if we went to the same high school, I went to high school in Tennessee. We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was not down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and it. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her Lava Life profile and she left. Also, some student stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. This is totally ducked up. Two senior boys pinned a younger kid down on a pool table, pulled his shorts down and hammered a giant glue stick up his ass with a hockey stick. Needless to say, there were a few expulsions. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came. Person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did, but in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair, so we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full ride scholarship to play football and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence. So he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him. Who did it? Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. A bunch of football players went to town on a girl in the auditorium. That was the rumor anyway. The other NSFW scandal is a guy found out his girlfriend was pregnant, so he decided to solve this by tying her to a chair and beating her to death with a bat. I wish that was a rumor. Girls track coach gave members of the girls track team rides home and massages. Got escorted out of the school in cuffs one day. Either our vice principal was smashing a senior or sexually assaulting another teacher. And when the story got out to the students, the vice principal tried to break into her room to confront her and she ended up passing out from a panic attack. Or, two senior girls were having sex with the town sheriff and his wife, and during a summer morning after leaving the sheriff's house completely wasted on booze, they swerved into oncoming traffic, killing a man on the way to school. Both girls have kids and are married and never showed a glimpse of regret or change of lifestyle after the crash. It was deputy, not sheriff. Sorry. My first day of 9th grade, a senior took a hit of acid, took his clothes off, ran around naked yelling, "I want to see everyone. I want to see everyone." He was finally chilled out and they got a robe on him. Called his folks. Maybe he was suspended. Same him a few weeks later. 3 years after that he came to our house to install cable TV. My dad always kept some cheap beer around for service people and the like. I gave him and his co-worker and said we didn't have any LSD. He laughed his ass off and said, "That's probably a good thing." We had a football coach ducking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it and I was friends with that cheerleader and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60 and she is in her 30s. The girlfriend of my best friend was molested one day. It didn't take long for it to get around school. When the police got to investigating the whole situation, and after about a week the molester disappeared from school for multiple months. He came back as a registered sex offender. The molester was someone in our class, and when my best friend found out, he took matters into his own. Molester ended up with a broken nose. Not sexual, but someone took a huge hit in one of the bathroom sinks. Very much abnormally large, especially given that it was in a sink. It was basically a mountain of it, and at the very top someone put a perfectly ripe strawberry. My friend grabbed my phone and sent a D to the prom chat. My homeroom teacher in 6th grade was caught having sex with a 12th grader. We had this weird science teacher. He was your standard mid-50s creep, but he had a really bad stroke or something that required part of his skull to be removed, so he had this huge seam on his head from the metal plate. He used to make girls stay behind after class and watch the lab tables while watching them. It happened to me a couple times, but I was never more than just a bit creeped out. The next year, he vanished very quietly. Also, someone started a preposterous rumor that I was pregnant. My mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me, and promised to make my life a living hell if I ever got pregnant as a teen. So that ruined the rest of my teenage years with her. Thanks, high school. Worst years of my life so far. Not even a scandal, just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select one male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, buddy actually was, resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. Girl 1 sends nudes to Girl 2's boyfriend. Girl 2 prints the nudes out and puts them in every unlocked locker and on all of the walls in the school. A teacher who was always suspected of having inappropriate relationships with students managed to get on the wrong plane with a student during the senior trip. They ended up in Greece when everyone else was in Italy. 9 months later she had a baby but didn't tell anyone who the father was. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. I actually witnessed this. So 2 students with mental disabilities went to the toilet together. Exactly what you think happened. The teachers forced the door open to stop them. End result of this, the parents of both students each argued that neither had the capacity to give consent. Both students were sent to court on abuse charges against each other. Of course it was their parents' choice to do this. Charges were dismissed in the end though, but that was one hell of a month for everyone in the know. Used to run into our IT tech at illegal raves doing coke a fair bit. Ought to be 16 again. New teacher came in to teach 10th grade chemistry. She was about 24 years old and super friendly with students. Halfway through the school year one of her students ducked her, taped it, and of course, showed the whole school. Students got caught ducking behind the theater by the vice principal. He went on the PA system to remind all students to refrain from doing anything inappropriate while at school or in the theater room. You could hear the entire school erupt in ducking laughter. No one knew who it was though. Someone hit on the toilet cover and masturbated over a picture of our English teacher. Not high school, but we had a teacher sleep with a mentally disabled kid under 13. One of the PA teachers was very not secretly in a relationship with one of the upper 6th girls, US senior. The day after she left school he left his missus and he and the girl shacked up and later married. Last I looked they were still happily married with a couple of kids. 2 girls were caught having fun in the women bathroom. New question. Teachers of Reddit. How hard is it to not duck the students? Let's see. The greasy hair comb over principal was banging the young counselor during school in the office. Forgot to close the blinds. Was seen by half the school. And his wife who was a PA teacher. My high school friend who got pregnant who was propositioned by the football coach as it doesn't matter now you're already knocked up. One day we all came to school and the front office, which was surrounded by glass, was shattered and we all just assumed some asshole vandalizing the school. A couple of weeks later, the police came and arrested our principal and one of the vice principals. No one knew why. Turns out that one of our other vice principals, super young dude, maybe early 30s, had made out with a girl in my class, seniors, was 17, who was also the daughter of the varsity football coach. She was dating my friend's older brother, straight degenerate druggie, and the older brother found out and came and threw a rock at the glass building. Our principal and vice principal knew and covered it up, so they go arrested. Eventually the guilt VP was charged and sentenced to a couple of years in San Quentin. He now has a YouTube channel and came out with a book about his time in prison. Edit. Couple of months in SQ. Not years. Phones got banned because a couple had sex at school and they filmed it with their phones. Pay teacher had sex with a student in the school. This happened after I graduated, but a student attacked another student with a frying pan. There weren't any frying pans in the school, so it had to be a premeditated frying pan attack. This kid titty ducked this girl in the quad after giving her way too much. She had a seizure during the whole thing. Was awful. Somebody pooped in a Pringles can and hid it in the bathroom. An English teacher had sex with a student as soon as she turned 18 and she went on to become a Victoria's Secret model. He had a reputation for doing so every few years. He only got fired last year. A girl got gangbanged on office chair and everyone spun it around for a turn. My math teacher literally woke up one day, murdered his wife, arranged things so it looked like a suicide, emptied her bank account and went on to have a normal teaching day at school. We even had a mass, Catholic school, for her weeks later and he faked grief through it all. We found out months later during school recess. In the auditorium there was this obvious hole in the wall, and when I say hole I mean like a 10 foot by 10 feet square, but it was way up by the roof and back behind the stage curtains. One day my friend said she saw the janitor climbing down from it on a ladder and she saw where he put the ladder. After school we went back there and sure enough she went straight to the ladder. We climbed up to the hole and there was a pretty big ledge in the hole with a twin-sized mattress covered in stains and a rack of old Playboys and it. I was very concerned about the janitor after this. One kid got caught masturbating in science class, then a week later got caught again in the same class. His best friend, freshman year, would go to the bathroom every day and be in there forever. Eventually our teacher sent someone to check on him and he comes back and straight tells everyone that he was in there sticking his D in a hole in the wall. Not like a glory hole but a hole in the concrete wall that a toilet paper roll got ripped out of and didn't have an opening, just jagged rock. One girl sent nudes that got around the whole school. One girl had a video of herself sticking a Coke bottle up herself sent around. And one girl a video of her fisting herself that got sent around. But my favorite was this sophomore girl got caught giving her BF a blowjob at school the day before prom. She got expelled and he almost got arrested because he was 18. They broke up and we ended up dating a couple years later. We've been married 7 years now. Kids had sex on a bus. Led to a lot of news beyond our immediate area. There was also potentially a graphic tee made that said less than school reg and more than know how to ride the bus. A jock we went to school with did a gay porn video. This was the early 2000s in a rural town. Homophobia was prevalent. For some reason he told his baseball teammates about the video. He came to school 2 more times and then disappeared. His family moved a few weeks later. Nobody in my high school class has heard or seen him since. Now, on the one hand I can appreciate that he just wanted to get it over with and let the world know. Maybe he was gay and figured making a few $1,000s for coming out was worth it. On the other, if he hadn't told anybody and somebody in my town came across this gay porn video, who are they going to tell? Ultimately I feel bad that my hometown is so backwards. The Chinese exchange students had a lesbian orgy in the woman's bathroom during homecoming. School cop was on patrol one night, pulled over a 18-year-old senior he knew for speeding. Don't know who initiated it but they ended up ducking in the backseat of his cruiser and she got off. We all found out when she was telling her BFF. The BFF's mom overheard and told the police department. His punishment? Told he could no longer be a school resource officer. This was back in like 0608. He was fired from his job this past year for failing to go to a 911 suicide call and preventing a fellow officer from going to it for almost 30 minutes. Oh, he also told the guy, whose house the woman was found died in, that he was headed there. Link to the article about him being fired. Edit. Spelling. Ain't public education grand? Dubbed the urinator, they kept finding urine puddles in the school hallways, stairwells, and the handicap elevator. The school had cameras everywhere, but they never saw someone just peeing in the hallway. No one knew how it kept happening without someone being caught. Turns out someone was peeing in a Gatorade bottle, and in between classes when halls were full they would just randomly spill it somewhere and no one around them noticed. The method only got found out when the bottle with some leftovers was found in a trash. But they still never found who actually was doing it. It came out a year after I graduated, but the high school band director, short creepy dude in his 30s, had been involved with numerous male students. Only one came forward, a 12-year-old, and he ended up going to prison for 12 years. Got out recently according to the Sex Offender Registry. Based on the picture on there, if he wasn't a bottom before prison, he is now. The mental thing is that he was the toast of all the parents and community for years, and people were holding rallies and donation drives. Nobody speaks about it now. Completely unrelated. A kid, whose father was a school board member. I had a bunch of classes, and played sports, with had a hit list he made when we were in middle school. It was a whole thing, with police and news reports. Months later, he's back. On the plus side, I wasn't on the list because you're always nice and cool. Yeah, me. Why is this relevant? Because his school board member father was charged a few years later with molesting a whole bunch of boys. He ended up shooting himself right before trial. I always assumed that there was some connection there. Sad really. Some loser from my school posted a question aimed at high schoolers about sex so he could jerk off to the answers. A couple ducked in the bathroom before an assembly, and one of the teachers heard. He subtly mentioned it later at the assembly just to find out whose faces got red. They were suspended. Kid drank full bottle of whiskey during history class and got into an alcoholic coma. It may be false since I only heard of it and I haven't witnessed it,